Reince Priebus.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. This is going to be a great day. And you've already heard from one cheesehead already, so you get another one. I'm just so appreciative of the Oklahoma GOP for really doing a lot of the work here and putting this together, and all of our state parties in our southern district of the Republican National Committee. Here's what I want to talk to you about, and it's not going to take long, but I want to talk to you about what a competent national party in our country needs to do in order for the Republicans to be successful in 2016. And a lot of the things I'm going to tell you about, they're things that you're going to listen to, and you're going to say, you know what? That seems pretty reasonable and normal to me. But you know what? Reasonable and normal is not what's been going on for a long time. We have to be a party. And the things that we've changed to have the success that we had in 2014 was that we realized that we had to be a party that didn't just show up 5 months before an election, but we were a national party that had to be a year-round party in communities all the time, everywhere across this country. Let me go back to the beginning. When I walked in the door of the RNC, we were $26 million in debt. Both credit cards were suspended for non-payment. We had 80 employees total. Do you know how many Barack Obama had in Florida at the same time? 800. There's a lot of reasons why things didn't go well in 2012. But I just want you to know one of them was that if you have a party that doesn't have its act together when it comes to the mechanics, the data, a 23 debate traveling circus. You know, these aren't the most exciting topics in the world, I get that. But we have to get our act together when it comes to the mechanics. And here's the deal. This sounds a little bit harsh. We have become a candidate-crazy party to the detriment of all the mechanics. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being, crazy about having a great candidate. We need a good candidate. But we can't be candidate crazy to the detriment of all the mechanics. Do you know what one of Barack Obama's employees would do if he walked into a room like this? And let's imagine you're all potential donors to the party. You know what that person would say? He'd walk into this room and he'd say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to identify and register 25,000 Democrats every month in Florida between now and 2016. And it's going to cost us about $5 million. And we'll communicate to them, be really smart about what they buy and don't buy. It'll be really, really good stuff. But every month, we're going to identify and register 25,000 Democrats between now and 2016. And before you leave, I want you to write me a check. First hand goes up. Who's the candidate? I don't care. What's the message? It doesn't matter. Because if we identify and register 25,000 Democrats a year, they say, a month, we're going to have these suckers by the throat. That's how they roll. Somebody out there, and I would proffer to you, it's the RNC, someone has to get this job done every month, buying the data licenses, having people in communities around this country, in Cleveland and Cincinnati and Columbus, on a year-round basis. Showing up 4 months ahead of time doesn't get the job done. You know what they've been doing? And here's what we're doing and why we had a lot of success in 2014. They hired 10 people every 10 blocks in Cleveland. And each one of those 10 people had a list of 800 names on a piece of paper. Here are the people that vote. Here are the people that don't. Here are the people you're going to get to know, but you're going to get to know these people. And imagine all of you up front here, you're all employed. 10 people, every 10 blocks, and you have 800 names on a piece of paper. And it's not just election day anymore, right? It's election month. And they're not going to sit around and talk about clean coal and fair trade with China. They're going to have pizza parties. They're going to bring bands in. And we're going to get to know people. And so what's happened? That's how you become a midterm party that doesn't lose and a presidential party that doesn't win. Winning a huge cultural vote in this country is going to require our party and our candidate to be about perfect. And that's what's at stake. And that's what we have to do as a party, as a team, whether you're in the party, Tea Party, in between, whatever it is. We have to build this party. We have to bring people in the door in order to win. Winning is do or die for our party. It's do or die for our country. It's do or die for freedom, because that's what really brings us here. I have obviously a very bizarre name. It's what happens when a Greek and a German get married. It's a cultural disaster. But by the way, if you've ever seen my big fat Greek wedding, that was my life growing up. But by the way, my kids are named Jack and Grace. So I tell people that some things are worth killing off, and my first name's one of them. But speaking of Jack, he's a good little guy. He's now 10. And I'm sure there's a lot of dads out in the crowd here. And like you, I want to be a great dad. And when you're running around all the time, obviously when you're home, you want to be home. And so I brought Jack over to the World War II Memorial. How many of you have been to the World War II Memorial? Well, I think you'd agree with me. It's one of those places that you get out of it what you're willing to put into it, right? And so we brought Jack over, and he's a good reader. And so we walk around and hear all these quotes from the heroes of that time, Nimitz and Eisenhower. And you walk up to that place on the wall, if you've been there, and there's 4,000 golden stars on a wall. And you start to figure it out, that for every one of those golden stars, 100 little guys, obviously a little bit older than Jack, but 100 little guys didn't come home to mom and dad. And I know you never, ever, ever put yourself in the shoes of a parent that goes through that, but for you parents, you know what, that little moment when you look at your little kid and you just wonder, what would it be like if that happened to us? And then you look down in front of the golden stars, and it says, "Here we mark the price of freedom." We're in a battle for freedom. It's the same battle that founded our country. It's the same battle that James Madison reaffirmed in the Bill of Rights. It's the same battle that founded our party in 1854. It was all about freedom. And that's what was at stake for us. And that's why I said, if we don't win in 2016, it's do or die. Can you imagine? What in the world would an RNC chairman come and say and pitch to all of you in 2017 if Hillary Clinton's in the White House? What would be the sales pitch? I can't imagine. And so there are two things going on right now. On one hand, we have the candidates fighting for the nomination of our party. And on the other hand, we got a national party and all of you and everyone across this country that are building and paying for a presidential campaign. We're the entity registering the voters in Florida and Ohio, and we're the entity working with your state party here in Oklahoma. But we have to do it. And we're talking about small margins. About won the Hispanic vote in Colorado with Cory Gardner. John Kasich and the team in Ohio got about 26% of the black vote, which we're very proud of, but it wasn't a coincidence. It happened because we had good candidates and we had an infrastructure underneath to grind it out, to work in communities nonstop and get to know people. And that's exactly what we need to do moving forward. We've also improved the process. We're not going to have a 6-month slice and dice festival with a meandering primary season up and down and all over the map that no one can figure out. So it's going to be a faster process, but it's going to give enough time for all the candidates to make their case. We're not going to have a 23-debate traveling circus in front of Chris Matthews. We're going to help pick the moderators and debate partners this time around. And some of you might say, well, wait a minute, you missed a big part of the problem here because Mitt Romney was kind of a duck on the pond all summer and was getting destroyed and there was nothing going on. You know what the problem is? And this gets into the weeds a little bit, but you all know that there's general money and primary money for these candidates. Hillary Clinton's the presumptive nominee on the other side. She's never going to have a primary. She doesn't want one. She wants a coronation. But she's going to be able to build up all kinds of primary money in that bucket. Well, what's going to happen to us? We're going to have 15, 18, who knows how many people running. When our primary is done, our person's probably going to be broke. So when can you get the general election money? Mitt Romney could have $200 million sitting in the bucket. He couldn't tap $1 until he was nominated in Tampa at the convention. So if you have your convention at Labor Day and you're broke after the primary, how in the world are you going to compete all summer with a candidate that didn't have to spend a nickel? So we moved their convention up to the middle of July, which is the earliest convention since 1980. This is not an establishment takeover. This is using your brain. You don't want Chris Matthews moderating our debates, right? We have to have a competent national party. And I know I'm beating a drum, but you know what? All of the things I just talked about, like I said before, might not be the most exciting things in the world, but you know what? It also unifies us. Because we all know that we have to get this job done. And no matter who you're for in our primary, no matter who wins, they have to have a competent data system. They have to have a volunteer network and a mechanism on the ground with all of our paid staff. This is hard work. There's no glory. Just read Twitter and my name and you'll see what kind of glory it is. There's not a lot of glory. Promise you that. Vince Lombardi, since we're having a little bit of a Wisconsin day here, he said the only place where success comes before work is in a dictionary. And he's right. I went and visited a guy, and I'm wrapping up, but I went and visited a person after 2012. And obviously, we were all extraordinarily depressed. And I went and visited a guy, and he's kind of a tough guy, harsh. We've all had relationships with that, where somebody's just going to tell you what they think, and if they take your head off, you know it's coming, but you've got to go deal with it. So I walked into this place, sat down, it was in Manhattan, really good guy, generous. I said, here's what I think we should do. And I should have thought more about what I was going to say, but here we do this, we do that. And he stopped me right then and there. He said, just stop, enough. Just quit. Here's the thing, Reince. You're young, you're smart, which I know is questionable, but he said it and I'm going to take it. He said, you're young, you're smart, and if you're not going to be big and you're not going to be bold, then don't waste my time. Don't waste your life. Don't waste your kids' time and your wife's time. If you're not going to be big and you're not going to be bold, then just forget about it. Just go back to Wisconsin. And I haven't stopped thinking about that ever since. And while I know that talking for 10 minutes here about mechanics, data, ground game, turnout, voter identification, and a process that does not destroy our party you're not going to hear about almost any of this again for this convention. But I want you to know that there is somebody out there that's working like a dog to make you proud of our party, to make sure that when we have a nominee, that the best infrastructure, the things you don't see and we don't talk about a lot, that this time around, we have the best possible infrastructure for our nominee to plug into so that not only can we save our party, but that we save our country. And so with that, I want to thank you. God bless you, and have a great rest of your day. Appreciate it very much. God bless. Thank you.